Hello, welcome to Mr. P, and today I will be going over the AP Microeconomics FRQs. The AP exam was on Monday, May 5th. It was an afternoon exam at 12 p.m. So the FRQs actually came out. There were actually two sets. There was the set 1 and set 2. I had set 1. That's the one I'll be working on today. I could work out set 2. I won't do it in this video. If you really want me to, you can let me know, but I think there will be other people going over them online. I am recording this about an hour after Jacob Clifford put the solutions out, so you probably already watched that. I was quite busy today with graduations from colleges of my sibling and other stuff, and I'm kind of tired. And I got macroeconomics exam on May 9th as well, which I'm not really prepared for, and I gotta study up for that. And so I've been working on that. Kind of tired, but they should be easy. So I will quickly go over the solutions, what I put, and the answers are pretty straightforward. Set 1 was pretty easy. So we got the Voda reservoir. Okay, this fun fact, Voda is actually how you say water in Russian, so that's kind of neat. Water reservoir, profit maximizing firm, only producer of bottled water. What does that mean? It's a monopoly in a country, water earning negative economic profit. So the part A actually just tells us to draw the graph, and so I will do that right here. We got the water reservoir graph. I will draw it on the side. Okay, so we got our graph. I'm gonna quickly draw it. We got our price, we got our quantity. Monopoly graph, we got demand curve right here. It's demand curve, marginal revenue, twice the slope. It's our MR. Profit maximizing quantity, we have our, now it says negative economic profit. What does that mean? ATC is above the demand. So I'll just draw the ATC. And then MC has to be decreasing and then increasing, intersecting the ATC curve at its lowest point. And then from there, this is the intersection point. So this will be our quantity of profit maximizing. And then if we go up to the demand curve, because that's what the consumers are willing to buy it at, that's the profit maximizing price of PM, and the average consistent, and then the ATC for A3 has to be consistent with negative economic profit, which it is, since it is above the demand curve for the entire range of demand. For part B, suppose government requires water reservoir to produce socially optimal quantity. Social optimal, what does that mean? Marginal cost equals the demand curve. And on your graph in part A, show the social optimal quantity. Okay, so that will be, as I said, MC equals T. So that will be this new quantity, QS. Part C, government gives a per unit subsidy to water reservoir. What will this happen? What will happen to water reservoir's profit maximizing quantity of bottled water? It will, I'm not going to write it out, but it will actually simply just shift, it will increase the quantity, the profit maximizing quantity of bottled water. Why? Per unit subsidy. What does that mean? Each product that you produce costs less to produce, so the marginal cost will actually decrease. It will go down, or you could say it will go to the right, or I guess going down is more accurate. And then this will result in the intersection with the marginal revenue curve at a greater quantity. So there's the marginal revenue. Actually, I'll do it this way. Here's the marginal revenue, and marginal cost increases and then actually, why am I doing this? I can just draw it out. So you got it's easier to visualize. So you got marginal revenue, you got marginal cost. Marginal cost will shift down, and the point will be here. It's right here. So we're producing at a quantity that's bigger. So yeah, and then you don't need to draw it out. You could just explain it. But yeah, it will just intersect the marginal revenue at a higher quantity. And so for part D, new producers have entered the bottled water market, with the demand for water reservoirs become more elastic, less elastic, or stay the same. It will become more elastic. Why? You don't have to explain it. I actually did on my exam, but then I just scratched it off because you don't actually have to explain it. You say more elastic, and the reason, if you had to say one, would be is because there is more substitutes, right? There's more companies producing bottled water. You decide to change price, consumers are not going to be demanding your product anymore, so it's more elastic. You have your price up here, there's quantity demanded, you even change it remotely, and then the quantity demanded just drops. So yeah, it's more elastic. For E, these are all conceptual. Water reservoir hires workers, perfectly competitive labor market. Kind of grabs that Unit 5 topic and tries to incorporate it into this Unit 3, I think. Yeah, so basically just tries to grab a Unit 5 topic and incorporate it. If the demand for bottled water increases, what will happen to demand for labor? It will increase. You could go with a derived demand explanation and just talk about, well, if they want more bottled waters, the firms will need more laborers to produce that more water, so it will increase. I use the marginal revenue product approach, where you could think of it, if the demand for bottled water increases, then the price will increase, right? And marginal revenue product is marginal revenue times marginal product. Marginal revenue is constant for profit marginal revenue increases, right, for bottled waters if the price level increases, and marginal product, well, that stays the same for the workers. So what that means is that the marginal revenue product graph will actually shift to the right, which will increase the intersection point for the water reservoirs demand for labor. The quantity of labor, it will be greater. So that's one way to approach it. That's kind of how I explained it. And for E2, government implements a new regulation, increases minimum age required for a worker to be employed in a bottled water factory. So what does that mean? Well, now minimum age is greater, right? So not as many people can work. Supply goes down, and what does that happen to the wage? Well, it will increase because we have supply demand, supply shifts left, greater wage. Simple as that. So that's for FRQ1. FRQ2, a little bit more mathy. I'm gonna work this one out pretty quickly. Calculate the total economic surplus at market equilibrium. Show your work. I guess I could show my work, but I'll kind of go quickly through this. It's basically the triangle area, right? Equilibrium quantities right here. The consumer surplus would be this area, and the producer surplus is this area. And then you could just simply say CS plus, this A, CS plus PS, which is equal to, let's see, we got 6 times the quantity of 60. So 6 times 60 times 1/2 plus, we got 4 minus 1, that's 3. 3 times 60 divided by 1/2. What does that give us? That gives us 360. Okay, hold on. That gives us 180 plus 90, which gives you $270 of consumer surplus. Not consumer surplus, total economic surplus. That's the area of the triangle. That's your answer. You move on to part B. Government sets price for 3 per bushel, dollars per surplus, shortage, or neither. This one's tricky. College Board tried to throw some people off. If you think about it, you got your sets price floor. Now, price floor is usually the minimum price, but the price equilibrium is already greater than that. So it's actually non-binding price floor. So what that does is, well, it actually does nothing. It's just neither. And then you could just explain with the way I just did. Price floor. Now see the next question. See, now that's a binding price floor because it's it says instead of a price floor, there's international trade, world price of $5. So you draw a line here. You don't have to, but it helps. Will Russian export or import rice? If you look at it, quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded based on these intersection points. What does that mean? Well, there's excess, there's surplus, right? So what will they do with that surplus? Well, they will just export it for the world price. So the answer is export, and you just explain it as I did. Calculate the domestic consumer surplus when Russian engages in international trade. Well, okay. Consumer surplus, right? Well, we're charging it a higher price, so there's not as many people that are willing to buy it for a greater price than that. So consumer surplus will decrease. It will be the area of this new triangle, which will be equal to, oh, it's easy. 10 minus 5 is 5 times 1/2 times what new quantity, which is 50, not 60. And that gives you $125. New consumer surplus. Total revenue, farmers will earn at the world price. Well, as I mentioned, they will produce what the quantity supplied at that price is, because they will just export the surplus. So if you look at it, they will produce 80 quantity, and they will produce it at the world price. So And it's not asking us for total profit, it's just asking for total revenue. So it will be as simple as 80 times $5, which is $400 of total revenue. Simple as that. These FRQs were actually very lenient. Microeconomics, College Board really gave us some easy ones. 3, game theory. I'm a fan of game theory, oligopolies. This one was kind of easy. I'm not going to read all that scenario. Hopefully you're familiar with it. Now, suppose Beverly's Bracelets chooses to produce silver jewelry. Okay, so there goes silver. Is choosing to produce unique for Tony's trinkets the best choice? Well, let's see. The left number is the profit for Tony's trinkets, and Beverly's Bracelets is doing silver. So Tony's trinkets, if it chooses unique, it only earns $20 of profit. But if it chooses typical, it earns $21 of profit. Simple as that. You say no. So equals no, and then you explain it very wordly to make sure you understand that, well, Tony's trinkets would earn more profit if it chooses to do typical rather than unique, given Beverly's Bracelets as silver. B, dominant strategy to produce gold to produce silver jewelry. So we're analyzing Beverly's Bracelets dominant strategy. Okay, well, Beverly's Bracelets, so we're looking at the right numbers. Let's see. 21 or 19, which one's bigger? 21. 16 or 7, which one's bigger? 16. Simple as that. We see that they're not in line, that it varies depending on the decision of Tony's trinkets, which strategy the Beverly's Bracelets will choose. So it doesn't actually have a dominant strategy, and then you explain it very wordly. So it does not actually have a dominant strategy. All Nash equilibria. Now, same star approach. We just look at Tony's trinkets now to add the rest of the stars. Tony's trinkets, $15 of profit or 10? Well, 15 is better. 20 or 21? Well, 21. The squares with 2 stars are your Nash equilibrium. And as you can see on our model, the payoff matrix, there's 2 Nash equilibriums. And then you just say, well, the unique and gold is one, and then the typical and silver is the other. Now, so that's for part C. And D, suppose Tony's trinkets producing, regardless, okay. So, okay, profit for producing typical jewelry increases for Tony's trinkets regardless of what Beverly's Bracelets does. What is the minimum amount by which Tony's trinkets profit must increase in order for typical jewelry to become a dominant strategy? Dominant strategy is where we compare the numbers, and for Tony's trinkets, we look at the left number. So let's erase these stars from Nash equilibrium. We got 15 and 10. Well, we know right here 21 is always greater than 20, and anything added to that will be greater than 20. So, oops. So we could just leave that there. But 15 and 10. Let's see, $2. Well, 15 is still greater than 12, so no. 4, 15 is greater than 14, so no. Now $6. That's where it becomes $16 versus $15, and it goes $16. That's a dominant strategy. You got typical favoring whatever the Beverly's Bracelets chooses. So Tony's trinkets will now go with typical if the profit increase will be at least $6. And you can explain it just as I have. Come on. Yep, right here. Okay, and then E, this one is kind of easy. This one has had a part of me that was like, should I do this or that? But I'll cover it quickly. So the 2 firms now cooperate, and it becomes 1 firm, and they're maximizing combined profits. They're trying to maximize the sum of the 2 numbers in boxes. And the thing that threw me off, or almost did, is the 2 locations. And I was like, now should we multiply the profit by 2 because they're producing at 2 locations? That's not what that means. It means that in one location that Beverly's Bracelets still produce what they're sort of specialized in, which is gold and silver, and Tony's trinkets does unique and typical in the other location. And so same actions and payoffs as the payoff matrix. Calculate the new firm's maximum combined profit, show your work. Now the work for this one's weird because you should be thinking, well, shoot, I'm just gonna add all the pairs of numbers and see which one's the biggest. Yeah, it's simple as that. But what I did is I wrote all 4 of them out and then just said, well, this one's the biggest. Now which one's the biggest? If we erase all this, 1521, that's 36. 2019, that's 39. 10/7, that's 17. 21/2016, that's 37. Which one's the biggest? 39. What strategy is that? Silver and unique. There we go. Simple as that. That's the firm's maximum combined profit. And yeah, so $39. These FRQs were pretty easy. Let me know what you guys thought of this. That's all of it. That's all the 3 FRQs. I think I covered them pretty quickly. I would say, yeah, the AP Economics, Microeconomics does give students a little bit more time than needed for the FRQs, but yeah, I'll take it, because the FRQs could have been harder, but they weren't. Not in this case. Now, the other set does have questions like profit maximizing firm, or I think it's a perfect competition. There's some marginal analysis with marginal benefit and stuff I noticed, and then there's a monopsony question. Now, that one doesn't actually come up a lot, but it did come up, and I was hoping it would be in this one because monopsony questions are pretty interesting, but it didn't. If you guys want me to cover it, let me know, or if you had it, let me know your thoughts on it, and if you would have preferred this one over that one. And yeah, that's about it. We'll keep pushing out videos for other FRQs as they come out. Some of the EPs, depending if I have connections that can go over them. I can't do all of them. I barely took all of them. So yeah. Good luck on your AP exams. I hope you guys enjoyed this walkthrough, and let me know your thoughts or comments, and yeah, like, subscribe, make sure you do that stuff, and I'll see you guys in another video walkthrough. Peace.